everybody. It's great to see such a big crowd here. So I know this is the kickoff for your couple challenges that you have going on. So really we're going to focus on nutrition today, particularly portions, because our society has really distorted them, hence the name portion distortion. So my name is Rachel Theodore. I know a lot of faces in this room. I'm the director of the wellness program over at the hospital. So I am in charge of all the girls that take care of you every day when they come here for your wellness coaching. So hopefully they do a good job taking care of you. We really enjoy working with you guys. We've been doing it for a number of years. So thank you for allowing us to continue to provide your wellness services. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Portion versus serving size. What's the difference? What does that mean? Distortion. What have we done the past 20 years to our food and drinks? Energy in versus energy out. What does that mean? And then how do we combat portion distortion? Because we see it. It's in our face all the time. How do we combat it? So what is a portion? A portion is the amount of food that you or I, that we choose to eat. Big or small, you decide. So it's different than a serving size, okay? So when you look at this thing right here, this is a portion, this is a serving size. And if you open to page 2 of your packet, you'll kind of see this poster on a handout for you. Okay, so the portion is what you or the restaurant determine is the amount of food that you should eat or you should be served. Okay, not necessarily what the serving size actually is. So you can see there's a pretty big difference here. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. So the problem with portion size, why is it a big deal? Why are we talking about it today? It's supersized our waistlines. As our portions have gotten bigger, so have our waistlines. And then it's also supersized our health problems. Blood pressure, triglycerides, blood sugar, diabetes, a lot of the things that we test for at health screens or that you might talk about with your doctor. So a serving size. So again, portion, we just kind of talked about that, versus serving size. The serving size is a measured amount of food or drink, such as 1 slice of bread or a cup of milk, recommended for optimum health. So basically, eating the serving size is supposed to keep you within your caloric intake for the day and keep you healthy. So if you look again at this poster or the handout that you have, you see on the left, your left, the serving, or what you are served, so the portion is a half-pound cheeseburger, lots of french fries, a tomato slice, and a lot of ketchup, a big cup of ketchup, 1,300 calories. So think about that for a second. Women, which is the majority of people in this room, we're about 1,600 calories is what we're supposed to have a day. Men, you guys are around, I see a couple of you back there, 3 here. Yeah, there you go. Men, you guys are 1,800, no more than 2,200. So women, we're doing a pretty big dent on our caloric intake for the day, right, if we eat this portion. Now, if you move over to the right side, this is the actual serving size. Half a cheeseburger, smaller amount of fries, a little bit less ketchup. So this is what we actually need for sustenance. This is what we actually need to sustain our energy through the day. About 680 calories, about less than half of our daily intake of calories for the day. All right, so next we're going to look at how is serving size related to nutrition facts and your nutrition labels. That's the first page on your sheet. So reading a nutrition label is really, really, really important when we're trying to portion out our food and determine how much of a food we should be eating. Up at the top it says the serving size. So on this example that I gave you, can anyone tell me what the serving size is?
6 crackers.
6 crackers, perfect. It's not a lot, right? 6 crackers is not a lot at all. So my guess is, for 120 calories, those are probably big crackers. So they're probably like those long, like flatbread crackers, if they're that many calories. You're not, I mean, 6 crackers of that is pretty small. So that's probably about 40 or 50 calories if you have the really tiny ones. So these are probably bigger crackers. But that's still not very many. 6 crackers is not a lot. So going forward, think about portions versus serving size, what we just talked about, and healthy versus unhealthy. So the portion kind of goes with unhealthy, and the serving size goes with health and sustenance. Have you guys heard the quote, "We eat to live or live to eat"? So think of portion as living to eat and serving size as eating to live. That's sustenance, what you need for energy for every day. So the other thing I want to talk about, here's another good example of serving size. Lay's potato chips. What's their slogan? Can't eat just one. So the serving size is 15 chips, and I brought that to show you. And I went through and I picked out the biggest 15 chips in there. So this is what 15 chips looks like. It's very probable that when we sit down to eat chips, we're eating more than this, right? I say probably double this, which then if you look at the, yeah, then you're over 3 with dip. Right. That's a great point. That's true though. So you're probably at close to over 300 calories, even with just double this. Triple it, 600, so on and so forth. But the point is, the serving size is usually very small. And why do you think our nutrition industry does that? Why do you think our food industry makes the serving size small? Anybody have any ideas? So when you look at the nutrition label there, it doesn't look so bad. You look at that nutrition label and you're like, oh, 160 calories. That's not that bad. But that's for this. So that's not very, and these are the biggest chips in the bag. So this is like the most you're ever going to get for 15 chips. So kind of think of it that way too. Whatever they put on that label is most likely not what you're eating. So always kind of picture that, count it out, think about it. And I'm going to give you some easier ways to portion things out, when you're out in public or when you're on the go, like most of us are, because we have families and we're crazy busy. It's not always plausible to count 15 chips or to weigh your food. So we'll talk about some easier ways to kind of keep track of that as we move forward. All right, so kind of another example of portion versus serving size here. When we go out to eat, we get served gigantic portions. And mostly it's double or triple what we should be eating. So when we go out to eat, what we're supposed to eat for for meat is about 3 ounces of meat. Okay, so what does that look like? Yep, that's up at the top of your second, and I brought that to show you. 3 ounces of meat is about a deck of cards. That's pretty small, right? It's pretty small. So when you go to Texas Roadhouse, how big do you think the steaks are that they serve you? Yeah, pretty close. So they give you some options. You can get a 6-ounce steak, which is double this. That's the smallest option that they give you. So it's double your serving size. Then it goes up 8 ounces, 11 ounces, 10 ounces, 16 ounces, 18 ounces. I think that's the biggest steak right here that you can get. That's 5 times what we're supposed to eat in a serving size. So again, this is kind of one of those, if you think about it when you're out to eat, you get a giant steak, maybe try to cut it in half, take the rest home. But this is kind of one of those visuals that I talked about, thinking of ways to portion things out. What is a serving size of meat? Should be about the size of a deck of cards. All right, so next we're kind of going to talk about distortion and what we have done in the past 20 years to some of our foods. We'll go through a couple examples here. So 20 years ago, about 3 inches in diameter was a bagel. And they actually still have these in the grocery store. And, and they're those mini bagels. Yeah, so that's a serving. Yeah. Yeah, and everybody knew what I was talking about right away. So I like it. This is what you get when where? Where would you get a big bagel like that?
Panera.
Panera, yep. Panera, Corner Bakery, any of those kind of places. So this is now more the norm. Those little bagels, you can't get those fresh, right? You got to buy those in the bags. What you can get fresh is those big giant ones. All right, so next we have spaghetti, 1 cup with 3 small meatballs. That was 20 years ago, the serving size, and that is still the serving today. But this is what we're served. 2 cups of spaghetti, so double, and 3, now when you go out to get Italian, you get giant meatballs, right? No longer those little ones. And here's the difference in plate size too. So this is what you would get a cup of spaghetti on with 3 small meatballs. This is what you get your giant spaghetti on with those 3 big ones. This is what we now in America call the norm for eating. And again, if you look at this poster, all this food isn't going to fit on this plate. So now we upped our portions, that means we got to up our plate size. So this has now become the norm in every dinnerware set, right? If you're married, you probably registered for dinnerware, and what did you get? You got this with everything. That's the norm now. This is what we should be eating off of, believe it or not. This is what we need to sustain ourselves, sustain our weight. And all this food right here would fit on this guy. I know, it's a salad plate.
It's a
so,
salad plate.
Yeah, exactly.
In your dish set, that's your salad plate.
It is, you are correct, and this should be what we're eating off of. So if you're trying to lose weight, that's one of the first tips that we try to tell people. Get rid of these. Put them in your cupboard, because if you put this amount of food on this plate, it's going to look pretty bare. And it's a mind game a lot of times too. When there's a lot of empty space on this plate, what does that tell you?
Dessert time.
Yeah, you haven't had enough to
Still hungry.
You're still hungry, you haven't had enough to eat. But again, the mental picture of if you eat off this plate and it's filled, you're sustained. Yep, you're good. Alright. So moving forward, French fries. So in those little baskets that you would think of like at a diner, that used to be the serving size. Now we have big plastic baskets or extra large supersize at McDonald's. And then, my favorite, drinks. Drinks are almost as bad for us as smoking, believe it or not, these sugary drinks. A lot of companies or cities now are instituting taxes on these drinks because they're so detrimental to our health. In New York City, they were the first big city to try to do it. It failed when they first tried to do it, and they advertised it with a commercial. It's a gross commercial of a man just drinking fat and it dripping down his face, essentially. Now it's in Pennsylvania, they just passed it somewhere. Chicago just passed it. There's a lot of resistance to it, but again, it's kind of like smoking. If you choose not to smoke, then you won't pay the tax. If you choose to drink healthier drinks, then you won't pay the tax that goes along with it. But 6.5 ounces used to be, so think about those small glass Coke bottles 20 years ago, 30 years ago even. That was the norm. That's what you bought everywhere, those small Coke bottles. I couldn't even find 6.5 ounce bottle anywhere. This is 6.75 Kool-Aid bottle. So that was the smallest. And then now the norm is 20 ounces. So we moved from this to a can, which you saw a can everywhere for a while. When I was a kid, that's what was in all the vending machines, cans. Now, cans aren't in vending machines. These are in vending machines, right? These are in gas stations when you walk in. So just to kind of put this in perspective, and I forgot my bags of sugar, how many, so you guys know sugar packet, right? How many of you drink morning coffee? Not a trick question. Not bad for you. Okay, good. How many of you guys put sugar packets in your morning coffee? Again, totally okay if you do. Nobody. How many?
2.
2. Okay, that's the average answer I get.
Sweetener, not sugar.
Well, okay, that's fine too. So 1 to 2 packets is usually the answer I get. How many sugar packets do you guys think are in a 20-ounce regular Mountain Dew?
30, 20.
I want to say like 50.
77. So 77, and I'll give you a little hint. Each little sugar packet is a gram, and then on the back here it says 77 grams. So that's a little hint now for when you're looking at drinks. We are supposed to have, women, we're not supposed to have any more than 20, 25 grams of sugar a day. Men, you're about 30. And the World Health Organization actually just lowered those even more because this is refined sugar. It's not natural sugar like you find in fruit. And it messes up our body and causes diabetes and things. Our bodies aren't made to handle this much sugar all at once. We can't process it very well. A lot of times I get questions too about Gatorade or lemonade, just as bad. So try to stay away from it if you can. There's a lot of other options. That's a whole other presentation. So if you ever want to hear that, I love giving that one too about drinks. But if you have any questions after, feel free to ask. All right. Burgers too. This is another big big one. You know, I do have to say, as bad as McDonald's is, their burgers are actually like a portion or a serving size of a burger because they're small. So they are small. If you go to like a steak joint, that's where you get like these giant ones, kind of like we showed here too. All right, coffee. This is a big one. Regular coffee, a lot of research shows 1 or 2 cups of coffee is actually good. It's not a bad thing. If we go over 2 cups, that's where we start to see some of the negative things of caffeine. But 8 ounces of coffee, great. Now, 16 ounces, you go to Starbucks, their grande, I'm not a coffee drinker, so correct me if I'm wrong, but their large is like their smallest drink. Isn't that true? If you say like a grande, that's their smallest size. So you gotta order a double extra large to get their biggest one, but what's the psyche behind that? Think about that. You're ordering a large, but that's their smallest drink. So we kind of talked about like the psyche behind filling a plate using the smaller plate. So kind of the same thing that Starbucks is doing. They're trying to kind of mess with your mind. If you order a large, that's really a small. So, all right, and I brought this one here so you can see this.
Kind of like a bagel.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing as the bagel. So here's your baby, which was the normal. Here's your giant one, which is, again, another, who said Panera earlier? A bunch of you guys said it. This is the size you're getting when you go to Panera now. All right, and then, yeah, when we go to the movies, that's a great example of our portions. What size bucket do we get when we go to the movies? Do they even have these at the movies even more? It's really only those.
It's a tub.
Yeah, it's a tub. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. And then you get free refills, right, if you buy the biggest one. Something like that. All right. And then pizza, too. Our pizza slices have grown exponentially bigger. And then the other thing, too, think about like deep dish pizzas, if you've ever had that. That's like 2 or 3 slices in one because it's so thick. So you just pile those like on top of each other, too. And then this is another great example of the Panera answer you guys gave earlier. When you go to Panera, you get this. This is like what you get in a Chips Ahoy, which that's a serving size, so that's good. But if you go get like fresh cookies, you can't get small ones. Most of the time you're getting those big ones. All right, so let's talk about energy in and energy out. As we do this, we're kind of going to do a little quiz as we go through. I want you guys to interact and kind of take some guesses, okay? So first, though, balancing weight, maintaining weight is kind of a balance of energy, too. So energy is food, right? That's how we get energy. So that's in. Out is energy out / exercise movement. You don't have to have formal exercise necessarily to lose or maintain your weight. But we sit a lot, right? We have very sedentary jobs now in our society. It's getting better. We're starting to have like standing desks or walking breaks or things like that, but we're not quite there yet. So our energy out is not like it used to be. Evolution hasn't quite caught up with our new societal norms. Think about when we were hunters and gatherers. We had to hunt for our food, so we were moving for it. Even in the early 1900s, most of the jobs in the society were manual. Even women, if they stayed home, they were moving all day. Now we all sit at desks. We were not made to sit. So our bodies can't handle it. Our bodies aren't used to it. All right, so here we'll start our quiz after this. But this is a very small amount of calories, 100 calories. Remember, this bag is 120 calories. So an extra 100 calories a day equals about a weight gain of 10 pounds per year. And over time, that can add up. So that's why it's so important. You know, you make one choice per day to stay within your serving size, you're saving 700 calories right here. A week's worth of going over, which means you're going to maintain your weight if you stay within your serving size. All right, so energy in, energy out. This first one here is 210 more calories. This big bagel is 210 more calories than our little bagel here. How many more minutes of raking leaves do you think that it takes to burn off this extra 210 calories in that bigger portion?
30 minutes.
15 50 minutes. So again, serving versus portion. Portion equals an extra 50 minutes. All right, so now our spaghetti. So look at how much that one is. The bigger portion is 525 more calories. How many more hours do you have to clean your house to get rid of that? 3. Good. 2.5 hours of cleaning. 2.5 hours.
Is that mopping or what?
All right, the next thing we talked about was French fries. So we have our little paper basket versus our plastic basket. 400 more calories. And then how long do you think you'd have to leisurely walk to get rid of those 400 calories? Pretty close. Hour and 10 minutes. So good. Yeah, you guys are on it. All right. Now we have our drinks. So how many more calories do you think are in this big one versus this little one here? And I'll give you a hint. There are 290 calories in this bottle of Mountain Dew. So how many more what's the difference here? Any ideas? 100, yeah, you guys are right on it. 165, which equals 35 minutes of gardening. So again, it's all about movement. Now we have our burger. Any ideas the difference in calories? 257. 257. And that's an hour and a half of weightlifting. Getting rid of that. So, a couple more. So this is a big one. Would you have ever guessed that that coffee would be that much more? Yeah. So the Starbucks drinks have tons of high fat, cream, and sugar in them. So that's why this is so much more. An hour and 20 minutes of walking. And then here's our friends, our muffins.
300 more.
Good guess. So this muffin has 310 more calories than this muffin. And that is an hour and a half of cleaning your house.
And that's without butter.
And that's what So, kind of the reason we're going through this right now with each one of these examples is because, oops, did I go backwards? Yeah, okay. Yeah, popcorn is a grain, good point. So,
But it's got butter on it.
yes,
Okay, so.
that's exactly. So,
Butter is
popcorn,
dairy.
not what you get at the movie theater. So popcorn is actually a good whole grain. It's a whole grain. It's what we put on it that makes it so bad. So movie theater butter, lots of heavy salt, but
200?
360, and then, oops, sorry, water aerobics, hour and 10 minutes. And that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then we got our pizza. Guesses? Throw them out. 350. An hour of golf, walking and carrying your clubs, which makes it. And then last but not least, so here's your Chips Ahoy cookie versus your Panera cookie.
95.
220, and that's an hour and 15 minutes of washing the car. So the reason we did.
Anything, I hate washing it.
Yeah, just go through a car wash.
No, why wash on the cars?
So the reason I wanted to kind of show you the difference there is, remember what I said when we went back to 100 more calories a day equals 10 pounds a year. So if we stay within our serving size, you don't have to worry about doing that extra exercise. Most of the time in today's society, exercise has to be used simply to maintain our weight because we do this instead of this, and then you burn off this. But if we stay within our servings, then we don't have to do an hour and 15 minutes of washing the car. So, all right, so how do we combat portion distortion? So this is where we'll talk about some things that are around on a daily basis that you can kind of use to know what is a serving size, okay? So keep an eye on your portions, what you choose to eat. So the first one is an ounce of cheese. and that is 4 dice, or about the length of your pointer finger. I have really long fingers, so maybe not for everybody, but 4 dice is an ounce of cheese. So cheese is one of those things, it's really, really good, but it's high in saturated fat, but it also has protein. So there are some good things with cheese, but it's really important to stay within our serving size because it is a high calorie, high fat food.
So my string cheese that's bigger than those 4 dice are probably 2 servings then, if I look at that, or what?
Might be a serving and a half. But look
Okay.
on the,
Back of the pack,
yeah, look on the packet and see what they consider a serving and match it with the calories too. So it might say 1 string cheese might be 2 servings, and then you would double the calories that are on the serving, or that are on the nutrition label. So if your serving size is 1 string cheese,
Right.
then it should equal here. If your serving size is half a string cheese, then you would double it.
Okay, got
Yep.
it. Nice comes out of the wrapper.
Exactly, exactly. But that's a great point. Who's going to eat only 15 chips, too? That's why they do that, because when you look at the label without looking at the serving, you're like, oh, that's not so bad. So that's a great point. All right, so we talked about our deck of cards. That's a serving of meat. Remember, at Texas Roadhouse, they don't even serve this. They serve you doubles, starting with their smallest one. A checkbook. Checkbook is about a serving of fish. So this is a little bit bigger. Why? Why can you eat more fish than you can steak? Anybody have any questions? Any answers?
Different fat, it's better.
Yep, so the fish has healthy, high HDL fats, so I'm sure all your health coaches talk to you about HDL. Beef has more LDL, so saturated fat. But if you choose leaner beef, then it's not as bad. But yeah, fish is a little bit better for you. All right, then we have a baseball. So 1 cup is a baseball. Okay, so cups really have to do with when you're kind of portioning out more fruits and vegetables, or like nuts or seeds or anything like that. Half a cup, half a baseball. Okay, so, or your fist is not kind of another good, your fist is always with you, right? So
Right.
you can use that too to kind of portion out some things. A teaspoon, tip of your thumb. Tablespoon, 3. Okay, so like teaspoon or tablespoon of butter. Small things like that. And then we're kind of going to build a healthy plate here. So we're all different, right? We're all different. We all have different caloric intakes. What you can do, you can visit this website and it will build you a meal plan based on your age, gender, height, weight, and activity level. It's pretty cool. ChooseMyPlate.org or .gov. It's a great website. They have tons and tons of recipes. We're going to kind of build a theoretical plate with the correct portions here. But if you want a personalized one, you can go to this website. And you type in all of your particulars for you, and it'll build you a meal plan and tell you a caloric amount that you're supposed to have for the day. Everybody wrote that down that wants to? I see a lot of pens, right? I could go back to this too. All right. So, first one is grains. So this is all based on a 2,000 calorie diet, okay? Just so you're aware. 6 ounce equivalent of grains. Okay, so if you remember, this is 3 ounces, so it's 2 decks of cards. Okay, is about what we should have in grains. Grains are like rice, pasta, potatoes. Those are all considered grains. So when you put this on this plate, it's about 2 of these. We usually don't have just 2 of these, right, when we have rice or something like that. So that's kind of your visual for grains. It should be about 2 decks of cards. Or other equivalents, 1 ounce equivalents, a slice of bread, a cup of ready-to-eat cereal such as flakes, half cup of cooked pasta, or cooked cereal too. So half a cup, half this baseball. No, it's not very much. Yeah. But again, remember that this plate's going to be filled with stuff. So if you eat like the proper portions of it, you will be full. You eat it all. All right. Next, we have at least half your grains should be whole grains. Whole grains are really, really important. What's a whole grain? If you turn to the very back page of your packet, up in the left-hand corner it says, what is a whole grain? So we have these three parts of a grain here, a bran, an endosperm, and a germ. The whole grains contain the entire grain, so all of this has to be there and intact for it to be considered a whole grain. What happens when it's not? They remove the bran and the germ and just leave the endosperm. What does that do to the food for you? Refined grains are missing about 2/3 of the nutrients that whole grains have. You might see on some labels, it'll say some grains are then enriched. So you might see the label that says enriched. That only returns about 1/5 of the missing nutrients. So anytime you can choose something that says 100% whole grain, your body's going to process it a whole lot better because it's called a complex carb. So that means you're going to process it a lot more slowly. It's not going to spike your blood sugar. Whereas a refined grain, when these two things are removed, it's going to spike your blood sugar. You're not going to feel so good. A complex carb we burn off a little bit more slowly.
So they can't, it has to have all of those intact, it can't be cracked or any of that stuff?
Well, this is really, really small. So when
Okay,
you
got
see,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's very, very small. So when you're buying bread, you want to buy bread that says 100% whole grain, not just made with whole grain, because they can put a really tiny amount in there and claim that it's
Got
whole
it.
grain.
Okay.
So most of the things you want to buy, make sure it says 100% whole grain on it.
So why did the industry go to stripping this all down when it's not?
Much cheaper. It's much cheaper. And the other thing behind the science of this, whole grains are a lot more satisfying to us. So when we eat whole grains, we feel full faster. Refined grains are not. They actually activate the appetite center in our brain, making us more hungry. So like, what's a refined grain? Anybody have an example? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
White rice.
White rice, yep. Donut,
Wonder bread.
Wonder bread, yeah. White rice, white bread, donuts, bagels, waffles. Those things are all refined grains. They actually activate the appetite center in our brains. Make us hungry an hour or two later because we didn't get enough protein, we didn't get any nutrients or minerals, nothing that's nourishing our body. All right, so the next one, 2 cups of fresh or frozen fruit. So again, 2 cups, that's a lot. That's 2 baseballs. So we're filling up on the good stuff. So 1 cup of fruit, an equivalent would be fresh fruit, 100% fruit juice. Here's the thing with fruit juice. When you have fruit juice, it removes all the fiber. So you're not getting a lot of the good stuff when there's fruit juice. If you do buy fruit juice, that's fine. Just make sure it says 100% fruit juice with no sugar added. But if you can do the actual fruit, that's the best part because you're going to get all the fiber then. Fiber is a volumizing nutrient. It makes us feel full faster. And then 1/2 cup of dried fruit. Why do you think that's lower for dried fruit? Yeah. If you're going to do dried fruit, like if you have a dehydrator, make it at home, make it yourself, because all the stuff you buy in the stores, they add sugar to it to make it taste better. Yeah, so they're talking about the fiber on the bottom.
Along the lines
Yeah.
of the fruit juice,
Uh-huh.
like what about like the fruit smoothies and things that you can make? I mean, like when you're
But you-
putting the whole fruit in there.
If you're making it yourself,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
If you make it yourself, like if you have a Ninja or and you make it yourself and you know what's in it, any smoothie you buy in the store is usually going to be made with like a syrup. So yeah, if you're making it yourself, for sure. Yep. Okay, and then vegetables. What's a serving of vegetables? So that's 2.5 cups. Why do you think we want to eat more vegetables than fruit?
No sugar.
Yep, the sugar. So it's still natural sugar, but even natural sugar we want to keep lower if we can. So vegetables, fresh, frozen, or canned, or dried, dehydrated vegetables. The thing with canned veggies, they usually have a lot of salt. Frozen vegetables are fabulous. There is absolutely nothing wrong with frozen vegetables. They're usually a lot easier for families on the go, especially now they have those like steam bags that are quick. You can pop them in the microwave. Those are great. Canned veggies, if you're going to do them, just rinse them really well, get some of the salt off. So 2 cups of raw or leafy greens equals a cup of raw vegetables, so there's a little bit of a difference there. So 2 cups of spinach is 1 cup of your serving. And then you can drink your veggies. V8 vegetable juice, that's great. Just choose the low sodium version if you can, but you can absolutely drink your vegetables. And if you're making smoothies, throw veggies in there. Usually you can't taste them, like cucumbers or spinach, carrots. Usually you can't taste them.
So why is the any of the leafy stuff is that way? Oh, because it's bigger than the. Okay, got
Yep.
it.
Yep. All right, and then 3 cups of fat-free or low-fat milk, or dairy, yogurt, cheese, things like that. Again, though, just watch your saturated fats. That'll hit your LDL cholesterol. But for women, milk is great, especially if you have calcium issues. You'll absorb it a little bit faster than some of the other dairy out there. But if you're going to do yogurt too, try to choose Greek yogurt. It has more protein in it than regular yogurt and typically less sugar too. Oh, just talked about all these. Milk, yogurt, cheese, natural cheese. So natural cheese is always better than like the processed cheese. Processed cheeses are like those Kraft slices. And then a lot of white cheese has lower saturated fat than yellow cheese. A little bit better for you. And then if you don't do dairy, some of the soy or the almond milks, they also have good protein in them as well. All right, and then last but not least, our protein. So 5.5 ounces of equivalent of lean meat, chicken or fish. So then we have our meat equivalents. Obviously an ounce of meat, and then we have beans. So if you're a vegetarian, about 1/4 of a cup of beans equals an ounce of meat. So 1/4 of a cup is about 1/4 of this baseball. 1 egg. Eggs are great. Eggs are awesome. Kind of the rule of thumb is if you for one yolk for every 2 eggs. Kind of keep the yolks on the low. I know that's where all the flavor is. That's what everybody always tells me. That's also where all the cholesterol is. All the protein is in the white part. Peanut butter or almond butter, that's great too. Try to choose a no sugar added version of that as well, because they usually dump a lot of sugar in there to enhance flavor. And then nuts or seeds, tofu, and then soybeans. And then I don't know if anybody eats edamame, it's just soybeans, but that's another really great snack, a lot of protein in it that you can have. All right, we talked about this already, using that smaller plate. Again, just this is what we have every day. This is what we should be eating off of. So try to put these away, hide them in a cupboard somewhere. Try to eat off of these. I know it feels like you're wasting a lot of money, but it's probably hard to even get a dinner set without this on it anywhere. So you're going to get this no matter what. But try to eat off this. And then the portions, the serving sizes we just talked about will fit on this plate too. All right. Start with a smaller portion. Have more if you're still hungry. How long do you guys think that it takes for our brains to register that we're full?
30 minutes.
What did you say?
20 minutes.
Yep, you're correct. It takes 20 minutes for our brains to register that we're full. So a lot of times, we don't even give our brains a chance to tell our bodies that we're full yet, because we eat this big portion and then we're so full. If we eat a smaller portion, which is the equivalent to the serving size, then we give our brains a chance to catch up and say, hey, we're full, we're good. And then cut portions by sharing restaurant meals, especially desserts with others, or bring some of it home with you. Ask for a to-go box. Usually what you get in a restaurant is double the portion, like you see here, double the serving what you get at the restaurant. And then making sure you read those food labels like we talked about. So you always have to multiply. So whatever the calories are, you're going to multiply that by the serving size. So 100 calories times the serving size. So there's 250 calories, whatever you're going to eat. Okay? And that kind of talks about that on the labels, page 2. So just kind of to recap, we talked about portion versus serving size. You remember what a portion was? What's a portion?
Portion is how much you eat.
What you eat and what's serving.
What's recommended.
Yep, what's suggested or recommended. Good. What have we done in the past 20 years to our portions? Yeah, made them huge. Energy in versus energy out. So that was kind of remembering just the summary of if we stay within that serving size, we don't have to worry about exercising more or moving more. You know, you saw how many hours more you'd have to do certain things to get rid of the extra calories in this muffin versus this muffin. And then last but not least, portion distortion, or combating portion distortion. So just some easy tips, easy things to kind of picture, remember, like the baseball, that's your cup, the checkbook, that's your fish or chicken allotment. The deck of cards, that's sticking with your beef or some of your higher fat meats. Okay, so just kind of mental things. Your thumb is a teaspoon, 3 of your thumb is a tablespoon. Questions? You guys were good at asking along the way, but anything else? Anything else?
So is that, so we can process the whole wheat stuff, but we can't process the flax if it's complete, right? Like a whole flax seed, you can't break that down, right?
They can grind it, so you'll probably find like ground flaxseed, which is just
Totally
as
fine,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
But the oatmeal I got has flaxseed in it and you can see the stupid thing. So
Oh.
the Quaker people are putting flax in there, but my body can't do anything with it because it's not busted apart.
So
I know I'm not supposed to eat Quaker oatmeal anyways.
no,
I know.
Quaker oatmeal's fine. You know,
Well,
old,
Tina tells me I need to make my own.
old-fashioned rolled oats are probably
Right.
yeah, those are the
Better.
best ones.
Right.
But no, flaxseed's great for you. If you can't tolerate the whole seed, try to find one that has ground flax in it.
I thought that your body couldn't process the whole one.
No, you can eat
Okay.
it. Yeah, it's just the same as like eating like a sunflower seed or like a pumpkin seed. We could process it. Now, if you have like diverticulitis or something like
Right,
that,
that's a problem.
yes, that's a
Okay.
problem. Some people can't, but if there's no digestive issues, we can process it. But even like Aldi now sells ground
yeah.
flax, and you can put it in your smoothies. You can't taste it at all. That's an HDL, really good for your heart health. So, good question. Yeah, it makes you full. Lots of protein in it too. Good point. Any other questions? All right. Well, I thank you for coming. Please fill out your evaluations. Please leave comments. Anything you would have liked to have seen in the presentation. We really appreciate that. And then if you haven't signed in, make sure you sign in before you leave. Thank you very much.